Hello, welcome back to Everard Junction. Today's just going to be a running session, and I'll also give you an update on further developments with the Magnorail. So in the last video where I set up the Magnorail for the first time, I filmed a short running session just after I'd got some of the cars going. Obviously that was a very first run, so I have since made a few amendments and adjustments to the way things are working. The main adjustment has been to extend it slightly along this part of the layout, right underneath the running lines, so the Magnorail actually comes out the other side of the track where the HST is before the vehicles turn around. I noticed when I was running it that the vehicles didn't go under the bridge far enough before they turned around, so it was really obvious that they were just doing a U-turn and coming back. Depending on where I looked or where I put the camera, you could see the vehicles turning round, whereas now they disappear completely underneath. So you can see that's now completely out of sight, which looks a lot better in terms of the scenery. So something else I've been doing is making some adjustments to the wheels of the vehicles. You would have noticed that some of the vehicles in that original running session were quite wobbly. The wheels were sort of all over the place in some cases. The reason for that is a lot of the vehicles are made by Oxford, and a lot of them have rubber tyres fitted. So if we look at this Ford Escort, you can see that it has rubber tyres. You can tell it has rubber tyres because they're much bigger than they're supposed to be. They're out of scale. It looks like it's got monster truck wheels. The problem with the rubber tyres is because you have the wheel hub, and then you have a tyre, which in model forms is just basically an O-ring that's been pushed over it. You've got to get the tyre sitting absolutely perfectly on the wheel, otherwise it will wobble as it drives along. Now, some of the other Oxford vehicles are shipped with plastic wheels. The plastic wheels, for a start, they're more to scale, they're more the correct size, and they also don't have the rubber tyres to worry about, so they don't wobble when the car's driving along. So what I've been doing is basically stealing the wheels from vehicles that have got the plastic wheels and putting them on some of the vehicles that had the rubber tyres. So this Volvo 760 had rubber tyres. The wheels were much too big. It looked like a monster truck, and the wheels wobbled a lot as it went around the layout, and the same was true for that Ford Capri. So the Ford Capri now has the wheels from a Morris Marina on it, and the Volvo now has the wheels from a Ford Fiesta on it. In scale terms, it's not massively obvious. I mean, that Capri's a 3 S, and from here that almost looks like the silver 3 S alloys that they came standard with, and the Volvo just looks like it's got low spec trims fitted to it. So not too much of an issue in model form. The cars are tiny, so being able to tell the difference between the wheels on the various vehicles isn't too easy. So I'm much happier with the way they run with the different sets of wheels. I had a lot of comments in the previous video with regards to fitting drivers to the cars. I have actually already done that on a number of vehicles. There's an example there, and there are a few others. These vehicles are all from the previous layout. Some of them I put drivers in, and some of them I didn't, because some of the vehicles were parked up. Now I have a working road. Obviously you can chop and change the vehicles as and when required, so some of the vehicles appear without a driver, and that will be corrected one day. It's on my list of things to do. Next thing I'll cover is a lot of people pointed out the marks that are visible in the road surface. Some even went as far to say as in no time at all this would wear through and I'd have to replace the road surface. I'd like to take this moment to point out that what you can see here and here is not wear. It is a dirty mark. There is no wear at all on the surface. Try and rub your finger through a Christmas card, you'll get the idea. So although there is a visible mark, I can't feel it at all. It is literally just dirt from the bottom of the vehicle sliders. That will obviously leave a mark on a painted surface as well, so the road is always going to have these witness marks as to where the vehicles are running. It's just something you have to live with if you want your road to work. The same is true for the competition, such as Falla. If you look at any layout that has Falla on it and it's been running for a reasonable amount of time, you will see the same lines worn into the road surface from the steering gear on the Falla vehicles, as they also use magnets. So don't panic, it's not going to wear through in no time. I can't feel that at all, there's no wear on there at all, it is simply just a dirty mark. I anticipate the road surface will last quite a long time before I have to replace it, and it's just paper, it's easy to replace. The position of the vehicles was also commented on. People said the vehicles were too evenly spaced, and yes, that was deliberate, as I'd only just got it working and I wanted to even the load out across the system. Now I'm happy that the Magnorail is working as intended, I can adjust the vehicle's position to something more prototypical. So for example, we have Grandad here in his Volvo 760 being tailgated by Dean in his Ford Capri 3 litre S. A very prototypical scene for the period. And again over here we've got Mum in her Ford Fiesta on the way to the shops being tailgated by 17-year-old Barry, who's just passed his test and bought a Mini 1275 GT. Next comment to address, which was probably the most numerous comment, which was I should lubricate the chain with some silicone lubricant to reduce the friction and the amount of noise that it makes. Magnorail stressed that the system should not be lubricated at all, and I agree with them. If you remember back to the installation, you will see that the chain is driven by those rubber tyres fitted to the gears in the motors. Now, if I lubricate the chain, that oil, silicone lubricant, white grease, whatever it might be, will get onto those rubber tyres and cause them to slip, which will render the whole system inoperable. So if you have some Magnorail or are planning on getting some Magnorail, for God's sake, don't put any oil on it, it will just stop working. Another comment that was quite popular was the amount of noise that it makes. A lot of people weren't keen on the amount of noise, and again I deliberately left the noise in the video so that you could make your own decisions. On review of that video, the noise is particularly obvious on camera, quite a lot less obvious in the flesh. So I will try now to better illustrate the noise that the system actually makes. The noise comes from the gearbox that is fitted to each motor. Each motor has a reduction gearbox attached to it. Think of a cordless drill or like a power tool. They all make that sort of whiny noise because they all have a gearbox inside them. The little motors for the Magnorail also contain a gearbox. So now I've set the camera at a sensible viewing distance. It should pick up the audio a lot more realistically as per what I can actually hear up here. As I said previously, once you get a couple of trains running, you can't really hear the Magnorail at all. The camera does hear the Magnorail because it was up close to the road and it pretty much ignored the trains in the background. So hopefully the camera is now picking up the actual noise in the room, the background noise. All I can hear is 5 trains running. I can't hear the cars. So once the Magnorail's up and running and you've got the trains up and running, I personally find it really enjoyable. It's really nice to have the road working in the background. Got mostly cars running at the moment, as I still have a couple of problems with the heavier stuff, the things like the vans. So a bit more tinkering to do from there. But the cars, once you got it set up, the cars actually run really quite nicely. There's another car I've changed to the plastic wheels. That Cavalier had very wobbly wheels. It's now got the wheels from a Ford Fiesta on it. You see it runs much nicer. But yeah, just generally running, watching the road work, the vehicles move up and down, and the trains run in the background. Really brings the area to life. You do have to keep an eye on it. Some of the vehicles can be a little bit troublesome, and I'm still very much in the process of working out what vehicles are working best. So you can see down here we've had a bit of a pile up. You can see that was all caused by the Volvo, and I think the slider is still with it. Yes, it is. Now I've got a big magnet on there already, so I'll do a little bit more experimentation, but it may be that this particular Volvo I can't use on the road. I'll swap it out for something that runs a bit better, something like a Morris Marina lighter vehicle. That's not to say that you can't run some larger vehicles. This is so far the largest vehicle I've been able to get working. This is made by Base Toys and it has a plastic body shell, so it is actually quite a bit lighter than you would expect it to be. And so far it seems to be running okay. I can tell you now that it certainly would not run with a trailer. But it does add a little bit of interest, something a little bit bigger running on the road. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a better idea of the noise. Ultimately you need to make your own decision, but I did notice that first video did pick up the noise quite harshly. It is worth bearing the noise in mind with trains in the background. It's not quite as annoying as you think it might be, but ultimately you need to make your own choice, so hopefully this will help you do that. Okay, so hopefully that answered most of the questions from the previous video, and now we'll crack on with the running session. So there you go, that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed making this one. Got some good shots of the trains running. Had a nice enjoyable morning. So I'll be back as soon as I can with the next video. I've got some time off over Christmas, so fingers crossed I'll be able to get some modelling done. And I wish you all a happy new year, and I will see you in 2019.